The red planet, Mars. For centuries, we've dreamed of walking on its soil, building homes beneath its rust-colored skies, perhaps even calling it our second Earth. But what if those dreams are blinding us to a deeper truth? What if Mars is not our next hope, but our greatest warning? You've been told it's barren, lifeless, waiting for humanity's touch to awaken it. But you weren't told everything. And what you weren't told might haunt you. They say Mars is dead, but death implies something was once alive. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the dusty plains of Mars stretching endlessly beneath a salmon-tinted sky. Silence. No wind, no song of birds, no hum of insects. Only a planet locked in a stillness so absolute, it feels more like a tomb than a world. Yet, buried beneath that silence, beneath ancient regolith and jagged rocks, lies a story far older than Earth. A story not of potential, but of peril. A story that might rewrite everything we believe about life, and what happens when it fails. See, Mars wasn't always dead. Long ago, billions of years before your first breath, Mars danced with life. Not as we know it, but something strange, something fragile. There were rivers once, carving through its surface like veins through flesh. There were oceans that whispered secrets to a deep red sky, lightning storms that stitched static across its atmosphere, igniting chemistry you can barely imagine. In those days, Mars and Earth were equals, twin embryos in the cradle of the cosmos. But somewhere along the way, Mars was abandoned, and we don't know why. You might assume it's just distance from the Sun, or that its gravity couldn't hold an atmosphere. That's what textbooks say. But textbooks don't talk about the anomalies. They don't mention the odd magnetic scars, the shattered crusts, the isotopic fingerprints in Martian meteorites that whisper of sudden, inexplicable trauma. Something tore through Mars. A cataclysm, yes, but perhaps not just physical. Perhaps existential. What if Mars didn't just die? What if it was silenced? There are things about Mars we still can't explain. The methane spikes, appearing and vanishing like breath held underwater. The recurring slope lineae, seasonal streaks that slither down crater walls as though the planet weeps in cycles. Fossilized shapes, buried in rock, dismissed as natural, but eerily symmetrical. And here's the thought that should freeze your breath. What if life didn't just visit Mars before Earth? What if it started there? And then something ended it. It's not just a wild theory. It's an idea gaining traction among planetary scientists who've studied the Mars-to-Earth Panspermia hypothesis. They believe that ancient Martian microbes may have been blasted across space by an asteroid, eventually seeding Earth. If that's true, then Earth is Mars's second chance. And we are its descendants. But if Mars was once alive, and we are what survived, then what did we survive? You're not supposed to ask that. You're supposed to marvel at rovers and speculate about colonies. You're supposed to be inspired. But inspiration without caution is dangerous. Because Mars might not be waiting for us, it might be warning us. Look closer. The planet is scarred, not just by time, but by something more violent, more deliberate. The northern hemisphere, vastly lower than the south, may be the mark of a planetary-scale impact. An ancient war? A failed experiment? A natural disaster that was unnatural? Here's a riddle. If a planet had intelligence once, and that intelligence vanished, would you be able to tell? Or would the silence fool you? We tend to believe intelligence grows in a straight line. That evolution only climbs upward. But maybe Mars teaches the opposite. Maybe intelligence can collapse. Maybe civilizations rise, burn too bright, and vanish. Before they can leave behind more than dust and ruins, no one recognizes as ruins. And maybe we're heading toward the same fate, because here's the nightmare you weren't prepared for. Mars is not dead. Mars is a grave with no name, no epitaph, just one long echo of something we don't understand. And now, after all this time, we're planning to return, not to mourn, but to build, to terraform, to colonize, to repeat history. But whose? History? And are we sure it's ours? You're standing at the edge of something vast. A secret buried not in shadows, but in plain sight. Beneath Martian dust, within Martian rock. You feel it, don't you? That tension in your chest. That creeping realization that Mars is not a place we discovered. It's a place we forgot. And in remembering, we might awaken something long asleep, or something waiting, something that watched as life bloomed, then failed. And now, it watches us. In the beginning, there was no Earth, no Sun, no Mars, no names for things, no minds to name them. Just a sea of violent potential. The universe, in its earliest breath, was not gentle. It was a crucible, a roaring, incandescent storm of pure energy, so dense, so unimaginably hot, that even time trembled at its edges. We call it the Big Bang, as if it were a sound, a moment, a point in space. But the truth is less like a bang and more like a blooming, a swelling of reality itself, a singularity, not exploding outward into space, but dragging space itself into existence. From nothing came everything. But here's where the cracks begin to show. If space began expanding from a single point, then where was it expanding into? And if time started at that moment, what came before? These are not just questions. They are contradictions wrapped in cosmic poetry. The kind of paradoxes that make physicists lose sleep and poets believe in gods. Now, float backward with me, past galaxies still forming, past stars just beginning to ignite, past the dust and darkness. Let's return to the infant universe, a place not governed by planets and orbits, but by chaos and fire. Imagine it. The entire cosmos no larger than a marble, yet so packed with energy that it burned brighter than trillions of suns. Matter did not yet exist. Space had no shape. Time had no rhythm. And yet, within this cosmic tempest, the laws of physics, those ancient scriptures of our reality, were beginning to take form. Gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces that bind atoms and split stars. These laws whispered into existence from the void, shaping chaos into symmetry. But even here, at the edge of origin, something odd stirred because there was no reason, no rule, that said these laws had to be the way they are. Why is gravity so weak, yet so infinite? Why do particles have mass? Why is there matter at all, and not just an endless wash of energy? These constants are tuned so precisely that the slightest change would erase the possibility of stars, of chemistry, of life. It's as if the universe wanted to be observed. And this is where Mars begins to matter. For amid all the star births and black holes, amid the nebulae sculpted like cathedral smoke, planets began to coalesce. Not all at once, not all equally. Some were giants, swallowing gas and swirling in chaos. Others, like Earth and Mars, were smaller, formed from leftover debris, iron hearts wrapped in silicate skin. But here's what most forget. Mars may have formed earlier than Earth. It cooled faster, stabilized sooner. And in the young solar system, where violence was routine, that early start may have been everything. Imagine a world where oceans shimmered beneath a crimson sky, where lightning struck metallic sands, creating amino acids in steam. A world not of dreams, but of potential. Mars, in its youth, was not a frozen wasteland. It was alive, in the way a forge is alive, a planetary furnace that may have been the first crucible for biology. This brings us to a truth that science accepts, with caution. Life needs water. Life needs carbon. Life needs energy. And Mars had all three, billions of years ago, while Earth was still recovering from endless asteroid impacts. Mars may have already nurtured its first chemical whispers of life. Its smaller size meant it cooled faster, letting liquid water settle earlier. Volcanoes spewed not just lava, but warmth and nutrients into those waters. Sunlight bathed its surface in just the right intensity. If there was ever a planetary Goldilocks moment before Earth, it was Mars. But then something changed. The magnetic field, Mars' invisible shield, vanished. Scientists say its core stopped moving. Its dynamo died. Without that field, solar winds stripped its atmosphere like a thief. In the night, oceans boiled into space. The sky thinned until it couldn't hold a single breath. Life, if it existed, was forced underground. Or it vanished. Or it fled. But here's the strange part. Earth, much later, would receive a series of meteorites, blasted from Mars, chunks of ancient Martian crust launched through cosmic trauma, only to land softly on a younger Earth. And inside some of these Martian rocks, bubbles, organic compounds, shapes resembling microscopic fossils. Coincidence or evidence? Now, pause, reflect. Because we are not just talking about planets anymore. We are speaking of ancestry, of origin. What if Earth's spark came from Mars' embers? Science tells us this is possible, plausible even, but it hesitates, because the implications shake the foundation of our uniqueness. It means we are not Earth-born, but space-born. Martian children walking a blue world, unaware of the grave our ancestors escaped. And yet, if life came from Mars, where did that life come from? This question doesn't settle. It spirals. The deeper we dig, the stranger the universe becomes. Dark matter, invisible yet holding galaxies together like ghostly glue. Dark energy, driving expansion faster and faster, as if the universe is desperate to flee from something. And black holes, monsters so dense they devour light, yet may birth new universes beyond their veil. What is this place we live in? A creation? A simulation? A repeating dream? Physicists now speak of multiverses, an infinite library of realities, each with different rules, different histories. In one, Mars never dried. In another, it never formed. In yet another, life arose there and reached for the stars, but failed. Which universe is this? Which path are we on? If Mars holds the secret, then perhaps it's not just a dead planet, but a mirror, one that reflects what we are and what we might become. Because what began in fire may end in silence. And what we think we know about life, about beginnings, may be nothing more than shadows on the wall of a universe far older and far stranger than we've ever dared to believe. You wake up each day assuming time is moving forward, that the past is behind you, the future is ahead, and you're somewhere in between. But what if that assumption is nothing more than a trick of human perception? What if, in the deeper reality of the universe, time isn't moving at all? Imagine reality not as a flowing river, but as a film reel. Every frame already printed, every moment already there. Beginning, middle, and end. To us, it feels like we're riding the current, but we're really just watching the frames in sequence. So what is time then, if not motion? Is it structure, memory, illusion? And this isn't just philosophy. It's physics. Einstein once shattered our understanding with a simple truth. Time and space are not separate. They are woven together into one seamless fabric. Space-time. Bend one, and you bend the other. Accelerate fast enough, and time slows. Approach a black hole, and it nearly stops. Time is elastic, malformed, dependent on where you are and how you move. But what about singularities? The heart of every black hole, the origin point of our Big Bang. These are singularities, places where our laws of physics collapse under pressure, and even time may cease to exist. In a singularity, there is no before or after. There is no light, no motion, no reference, just density, pure, infinite, unspeakable, a place not meant to be observed or understood. And yet, everything we know may have come from one. So here's the paradox. If time began with the Big Bang, how could there have been a cause? How could anything precede it, if there was no before? You feel it now, don't you? That quiet dread. That sensation that we're missing. Something fundamental. That our understanding is built on a thin thread of logic stretched across a chasm of mystery. Some physicists believe the Big Bang wasn't the beginning at all, but a bounce. That there was a universe before this one, collapsing inward, like a dying lung, until it exploded outward again. A cosmic breath. A cycle with no origin, no first breath. Just eternal rise and fall. Others go further. They believe in a multiverse, a boundless expanse of realities, each with its own laws, its own beginnings, its own timelines. In one, gravity repels. In another, stars never form. And in yet another, Mars bloomed with life, evolved sentient beings, and whispered its final words into the void before being extinguished. But if infinite realities exist, why this one? Why you? Let's dig deeper. There's a theory called eternal inflation. It suggests that our universe is just one bubble in a vast cosmic foam. New universes are constantly being birthed from quantum fluctuations in a never-ending sea. Most die instantly. Some last. And one, ours, produced stars, planets, and conscious minds that ask why. But if that's true, then our universe isn't special. It's statistical. A fluke. And you? You're the result of cosmic dice rolling, endlessly through an infinite void, and somehow landing upright, conscious, and self-aware. Does that make life meaningless or miraculous? Now, let's return to Mars. If life began there, was it a single occurrence? A lone spark in a cold wind? Or was the universe teeming with sparks, and Mars just happened to catch one? Scientists have found organic molecules in Martian soil, methane in its atmosphere, traces of ancient rivers and lakes. They've seen what looked like stromatolites, rocky fossils shaped by ancient microbes, but they always stop short of calling it life. Because to admit life was there means we must confront the next question. Where did it go? And worse, could the same thing happen to us? Life is fragile. It needs balance, the right temperature, the right chemicals, the right protection from radiation. A few shifts, a few wrong turns, and that balance collapses. On Mars, the collapse was complete. But what if the collapse wasn't just natural? What if intelligence arose? Not just microbes, not just slime, but civilizations, machines, culture. A society advanced enough to rise and fall without a trace. Is that even possible? We don't know. But here's what we do know. Civilizations on Earth have risen and vanished, swallowed by deserts, earthquakes, or time. Now scale that up to planetary terms. Suppose Martian life once flourished in underground cities powered by geothermal heat. Suppose it reached for the stars, but never made it. Suppose its greatest legacy is a whisper embedded in a meteorite, and a warning we've chosen not to hear. All of this leads us to a terrifying symmetry. Mars and Earth were once equals, but one died, and the other? The other is building rockets to go back. Not to ask questions, but to repeat the story. And maybe the reason we can't find proof of alien life anywhere in the cosmos is because the moment intelligence arises, it burns itself out. It reaches too far, too fast. It awakens forces it doesn't understand, and those forces do not forgive curiosity. Maybe we are next, but we're not done yet. Let's return to time. Some scientists now argue that time itself might be emergent. Not a fundamental part of the universe, but something that arises from deeper laws we haven't yet discovered. In that case, everything that ever was still is. The Martian oceans, the first microbe, the last Martian breath, all frozen in a higher dimension, like still frames on a roll of film we can't yet rewind. So what if the Mars we visit in the future is still echoing the past, and what if we're not the first to walk its surface? Now, lean in, because this is where science meets something older, something ancient. There are legends on Earth of gods falling from the sky, of beings from red stars teaching early humans. Some say these are myths, others say they are memories, and some whisper that they're Martian. Could we be remembering a home we never knew we lost? Could our myths be Martian dreams? Science doesn't answer that, but science does admit that the boundary between known and unknown is thin, just a membrane of confidence stretched across an ocean of ignorance. And the deeper we go, the more we realize our questions aren't too big. Our minds are too small. But we keep asking, because that's what life does. It reaches, even when the stars are silent, even when the void doesn't answer, even when the answer is something we fear. Now, are you ready to go deeper? You've come this far, and now the questions grow darker. Not simpler, not clearer, but heavier, like stones in your chest. Because here, at the edge of everything we know, lie the paradoxes, the riddles that refuse to be solved, and each one brings us closer to the truth about Mars, the cosmos, and ourselves. Let's begin with the Fermi paradox. The universe is ancient. The stars have burned for over 13 billion years. There are more planets than grains of sand on every beach on Earth. By all logic, intelligent life should be common. Galactic civilizations should have risen, spread across the stars, left beacons in the void. And yet, nothing, no signals, no contact, just silence. Where is everyone? Some say life is rare. Others say intelligent life is doomed to self-destruct. But a few believe the silence is intentional, that something waits in the dark, and punishes those who speak too loudly. Now look back at Mars. What if it once reached that threshold? What if life evolved, thrived, and reached outward, only to be noticed and silenced? This isn't fantasy. It's a hypothesis. The dark forest theory, drawn from real discussions in astrobiology. It suggests that in a universe full of predators, silence is survival. Every civilization hides, because the first to shout may be the first to vanish. Did Mars shout? Did it pay the price? Hold that thought. Now consider the paradox of consciousness. We measure particles, bend gravity, split atoms, but we can't explain the thing behind your eyes. The awareness you carry. You can describe a brain, but you cannot explain why it feels like anything to be alive. And here's the twist. Consciousness may not even require biology. Some theories suggest the universe itself might be conscious. That the cosmos isn't just containing us, but dreaming us. In that dream, Mars lived. Mars died. And now we remember it, like a half-lost memory bleeding through a crack in the veil of time. But if consciousness is a product of the universe, can it be measured? Scientists are trying. The integrated information theory, the OR model, quantum cognition. These aren't sci-fi ideas. They're real scientific attempts to measure awareness itself. And some researchers believe alien intelligence may not look like us, may not even think like us. It could be microbial, planetary, or even geological. Which brings us back to Mars. What if the planet itself was alive? Not metaphorically, but literally. A sentient world. A planetary mind that once dreamed in rivers, breathed in storms, and now sleeps beneath dust. We dismissed this once as fantasy. But science now admits the possibility of panpsychism, the idea that everything contains some form of consciousness. Even stars, even stones, even Mars. And if planets can think, can they choose? Could Mars have chosen silence? Could it have watched Earth rise, not with envy, but with sorrow? Let's go deeper. Consider the paradox of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us that systems tend toward disorder, that all complexity must decay, that all heat must die, and yet, here you are, thinking, breathing, burning calories in defiance of cosmic decay. Life is anti-entropy. Life is rebellion, but it's a temporary rebellion. Mars may have once burned with entropy-defying life. Then it collapsed into stillness. A preview, perhaps, of Earth's future. Because entropy doesn't care about ambition, or science, or dreams. It erodes everything, given time, even time itself. Which leads us to one of the strangest questions of all. Is the arrow of time an illusion? If all physical laws are time-symmetric, if they work just as well forwards as backwards, then why do we experience time moving in only one direction? Why do we remember the past, but never the future? Could it be because we are designed to? Some physicists argue that memory is a trick, an artifact of entropy, that the arrow of time is psychological, not physical, and that, somewhere in the quantum fog, time may loop, fold, or even run backward. If that's true, could Mars still exist in another fold of time? Could we be seeing its end while its beginning happens elsewhere? Let's stay in the quantum realm. At the heart of quantum mechanics lies a truth that seems impossible. Particles do not have fixed states until observed. They exist in probabilities, in possibilities, until a consciousness collapses the wave, function, choosing one reality over all others. So who or what is observing the universe? Is that what life is? A mechanism for collapsing chaos into structure? A way for the universe to see itself? And if Mars once hosted observers, and those observers vanished, did the reality they held together collapse with them? Quantum theory also introduces us to entanglement. Particles separated by light years still linked instantly, as if distance doesn't exist. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But what if it's not spooky? What if it's the default? What if every planet, every star, every mind is part of a grand entangled web, and Mars was once one of the nodes? And when it went silent, something else felt it? Let's zoom out now. Cosmic background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang. It's everywhere, an echo of origin, whispering through every atom. But it's not uniform. There are cold spots, anomalies, strange alignments called the axis of evil, patterns that defy randomness. Some say these are just noise, others aren't so sure. Some believe these irregularities point to a boundary, a scar, a sign that our universe bumped into another. If so, what's beyond? And could that beyond have reached in? What if Mars was not just a planet that died? What if it was a border, a gateway, a failed experiment? What if something, someone, was watching? There are also reports from Earth, patterns in data, of unexplained isotopes, ancient cosmic rays, high-energy neutrinos that don't match our models. Bursts of energy from deep space that blink and vanish. They're called fast radio bursts, and they come from billions of light years away, sometimes repeating, sometimes not. No one knows what causes them, but some theorize they're artificial. Galactic messages, warnings, or echoes. Maybe we've already been contacted, and maybe Mars was the first to listen, and the first to pay for it. Now sit with this final paradox, the anthropic principle. It asks, why is the universe just right for life? Out of infinite possibilities, why this one? Some say we ask that only because we're here to ask it. That's the weak version, but the strong version? It suggests that the universe must produce life, that life is not accidental, but necessary, and, if that's true, then every death, every extinction, every silence is just one note in a cosmic melody still being written. Mars was not the end. It was a verse, and we are the next. But what will our verse sound like? Will we sing, or will we fall silent, like Mars? This is where science reaches its limit, where numbers fade and poetry begins, where knowledge gives way to awe, because we're no longer just asking if life existed on Mars. We're asking if the eternal cosmos wants life, if it fears it, if it remembers it, and if Mars is its way of telling us, be careful what you become. You've followed the red thread across cosmic time, down into Martian dust, and now it tightens. Around your chest, around your breath, around your sense of self. Because now, the questions stop feeling distant. Now, they start feeling personal. What if you are not who you think you are? What if nothing is? If time is an illusion, then every moment of your life, every choice, every heartbreak, every whisper in the dark, has already happened. Not once, but infinitely. You are not moving forward. You are trapped in a loop, a groove in the record of the universe. And the needle just keeps playing you again and again. Somewhere out there, another version of you is watching this very moment, thinking these same thoughts. Somewhere else, another version never existed. And elsewhere, still, you are already dead. This isn't science fiction, it's the logical consequence of quantum theory, multiverse logic, and the raw math of space-time. You were born into a reality that might be just one page in a book of infinite pages, all stacked on top of each other, all humming with possibility. And if that's true, then Mars? Mars is not just a dead world. It's a page that has already turned. We just haven't caught up to it yet. But the question that gnaws, the one you can't shake, is this. Why does it feel like it matters? Why, in a cold and expanding universe that will one day stretch into darkness and silence, do you feel joy? Why do you mourn the dead? Why does a planet billions of miles away, its oceans dry, its heartbeat stilled, make something in your chest ache? Could it be that the universe is not indifferent after all? Could it be watching? Could it be you? That every living mind is the cosmos waking up, pixel by pixel, memory by memory, trying to remember what it is? That Mars was an earlier dream, one that ended in silence, and you are the next dream still unfolding? But what if we're dreaming toward the same ending? Let me show you what that ending looks like. Imagine Earth. 1,000 years from now, cities hollowed out by storms, skies thick with heat, the oceans no longer blue, but swollen, angry, rising into lands that once fed nations. The machines we built humming in our absence. A Mars-born warning playing out, again. Only this time, it's us, because Mars didn't just die. It warned. It lived too fast. It burned too bright. It fell silent. And we mistook that silence for permission. And now we're reaching for it. Eager to terraform, to conquer, to resurrect what we never knew. But if the universe is a mirror, then what are we reflecting? And if Mars was once us, then are we just Mars again? The horror isn't in what we've discovered. It's in what we still don't understand. The horror is in the size of it all. Look up. Every point of light in the night sky is a star. Many with planets. Many older than Earth. Some perhaps already gone. Others not yet born. And yet, the darkness between them is so much greater than the light. That's the part no one tells you. The cosmos isn't mostly stars. It's mostly empty. And it's not a warm, gentle emptiness. It's a roaring, freezing void that stretches farther than your mind can stretch. So vast that even light gets lost in it. And here you are, small, mortal, barely clinging to the edge of one planet, trying to understand a second. What gives you the right? What makes you think the universe owes you anything but silence? Yet, here you are, still wondering, still reaching, still aching. And maybe that is the answer. Maybe Mars is a grave, maybe Earth is a cradle, and maybe the universe is trying to decide which one we belong to. Because in the end, the story of Mars isn't about a planet that died. It's about what happens when a species forgets to listen to the silence. And if we're not careful, the next planet to go quiet will be ours. Close your eyes. The red sands of Mars rise around you, swirling in slow motion, like embers caught in the windless breath of space. Above you, the stars are not twinkling. They are watching, silent, cold, eternal. A cathedral of unknowable lights stretching beyond time. Each one a sun, each one possibly watching its own Mars fall silent in some forgotten spiral arm of a forgotten galaxy. And then, for one terrifying moment, you see it all at once. Earth, Mars, time, thought, consciousness, galaxies spinning like silent hurricanes, black holes blinking in and out like pupils in a sleeping god's eye, strings of cosmic filament threading through the dark, pulsing with gravity, bending entire clusters of stars like veins in a living thing. You're not watching the universe anymore. You're inside it, and it is alive. The laws you thought were fixed, gravity, time, light, begin to ripple. They're not rules, they're rhythms, instructions written into the bones of existence. But whose instructions? What if the universe wasn't created? What if it was remembered? A recursive echo, a memory dreaming itself into being over and over and over. Each version slightly different. Each version asking the same question in a different way. What am I? And in this version, that question is being asked by you. You, the observer, the witness, the brief flicker of awareness staring back at the cosmos through a screen, a lens, a heartbeat. You are not a speck in the universe. You are the universe, noticing itself. And suddenly, Mars is no longer just a planet. It's not even a warning, it's a mirror. Because if life began there and failed and began again here and is failing again, then maybe that's not tragedy. Maybe that's process. The universe does not move in lines. It moves in loops, in spirals, in orbits, just like galaxies, just like thoughts. What if you are inside one of those loops? What if time is not passing, but folding? What if the end of the universe is the beginning? And what if this entire reality, this very moment, is the final echo of something long dead, a dying star's dream, a black hole's last thought, a single electron trapped in a recursive loop of observation, simulating an entire cosmos just to make sense of being watched? This isn't metaphor. This is physics, simulated reality, holographic universes, observer-created states. They're not fringe theories anymore. They're models, mathematical, testable, terrifying. So ask yourself one final question. What if Mars didn't die before Earth? What if Mars is what happens after? And what you are watching is the future remembering its past. Your breath catches. Your skin tingles. Because suddenly, the silence of the universe is no longer empty. It's listening. And as you stare up at the stars, wondering if you are alone, the only sound that comes back is your own voice, echoed across space and time, whispering, if the universe is infinite, then somewhere out there, another version of me is asking the same question. And in that moment, you realize the answer is not out there. It's in you, and it always was. You've seen the dust of Mars not as soil, but as memory. You've walked alongside vanished rivers and peered into the eyes of a planet that may have lived, thought, dreamed, and died. You've stepped beyond the veil of science into something stranger. Time that doesn't move, space that folds, consciousness that might not belong to us alone. You've witnessed a universe that is not silent, but secret. From the furnace of the Big Bang to the frozen plains of Mars, from quantum whispers to the roaring breath of galaxies, we've traced a story older than history, and not yet finished. We've explored theories that blur the line between reality and reflection, between death and recurrence, between planet and prophecy. And now, you're left with a question only you can answer. What is Mars trying to tell us? Is it a warning? A mirror? A memory? Or is it something worse? Something we're not ready to understand? We don't know, and that is exactly the point. Because for all our machines and measurements, for all our telescopes and equations, we are still creatures of wonder, still made of stardust that dares to ask why. And that daring, the courage to wonder in the face of infinite silence, is what makes us something the universe hasn't yet forgotten. This isn't the end of the story. This is a doorway. And the next step isn't mine, it's yours. Ask yourself the impossible questions. Let them haunt you. Let them guide you. Let them echo through your bones as you stare into the night sky, and realize that the greatest mysteries aren't out there. They're within. What happened to Mars may one day happen to us. But if we understand the silence, if we learn to listen, we may not just survive. We may remember. So now, look up, into that dark, endless ocean, and ask yourself, what if the universe isn't watching you? What if it's waiting? If this journey moved you, if you feel different, now than you did before, then don't keep it to yourself. Comment. Share what you're thinking. Subscribe not just for the next chapter, but for the questions you haven't dared to ask yet, because this story isn't over, and neither are you. The universe may have no end, but maybe neither do you.